The topic is measuring instruments. Now, what are these measuring instruments? In the field of education, measurements are marks. So, how can we get marks? By giving tests. So, measuring instruments means tests, right? Measuring instruments, measuring tools, both of them refer to tests. So put an equation mark next to the word tools and write tests. So three names are there, right? Measuring instruments, measuring tools and tests. Now what are these measuring items? Items are questions. Measuring items are questions. In a measuring instrument, we can find measuring items. Or in a tool, we can find items. In a test, we can find items. Items means questions. So write the word item, put an equation mark and write question. So remember those, right? Instruments, tools, tests. Question means item. So today what we are going to study is different types of tests. Right? The first one is teacher tests. Teacher tests mean progress tests. Once again, put an equation mark. Teacher tests equals progress tests. Right? So what are these progress tests or teacher tests? Tests conducted at random by the teacher himself using his experience and skills to measure the progress of the students in learning a particular subject and the mode of his learning are called teacher tests. Right? Now we'll break down this one. What do you mean by teacher tests? Who gives the test? The teacher. And when she gives the tests? Anytime, right? Tests conducted at random. These are not pre-scheduled. There's no fixed timetable. The teacher can decide when she's going to give the test. Right? You will say Amali. Amali can say, next week or next Monday, I'll give you a test on passive construction. So the teacher decides, right? The tests conducted at random by the teacher himself. There's no authority or examinations department or zonal office, only the teacher. Subject teacher conducts the test using his experience. Whatever experience he has, he is using it and construct the paper and gives the test using his experience and skills to measure the progress of the students. What does he measure? The progress, the gradual development of the students in learning a particular subject. And the mode of his learning are called teacher tests. Right? These measure mainly what the students can do and cannot do. Underline those. These teacher tests measure what the students can do or cannot do. Now, after giving a test on passive construction, the teacher can get an idea whether the students can convert active sentences into passive or they cannot do. Likewise, from these teacher tests, the teacher can get an idea about the progress of the students. Now, characteristics set by the teacher himself, right? Set to suit the requirements of the students in his class. According to the standard of the students, the teacher can set the paper, right? Set within a short period of time. Yeah, next week or after this section, I can say now take out a piece of paper and write the characteristics of a teacher test. So within a short period of time we can decide. Set to assess the knowledge gained by students with regard to subjects taught recently. Right? This is a continuous kind of assessment, right? Formative. So now I teach something, then I can give you a test. Then I go to the next section. Likewise. So the tests are given on recently taught content. Set with the aim of motivating students. Now if I give a test and get marks, then one child might decide next time I'll get full marks. Likewise. Set with the aim of motivating students. These should be short tests, not lengthy ones, right? 3 hours, 2 hours, no. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. These should be short tests which could be answered in a short time within the period. Answers could be marked by the students themselves. Right? We can ask the students to exchange the papers and the teacher will discuss the answers. The students can mark. Not serious. Answers could be marked by the students. Help to identify the students' weaknesses without delay. Right? Because we conduct the test based on the recently taught content. So without delay we can identify. Now after the passive construction I give a test and I see the students have not scored well. That means the students have not understood the lesson well. I have to teach them again using different techniques. Right? So we can identify weaknesses and without delay and apply remedial measures. Could be conducted at random. No need of a special timetable. So you have to remember these characteristics. So what are teacher tests? Teacher tests, they are conducted by the teacher himself anytime he wishes on the recently taught subjects to identify students' weaknesses and to get an idea about the students' progress. So there are some other characteristics also. So teacher tests are progress tests. The teacher conducts these to check the progress of the students. Next part. Teacher tests can be categorized as follows, right? Now when we give teacher tests, they can be divided into two parts. What are those? Written tests and oral tests. Writing and speaking. What are those two skills? Writing and speaking. These are productive skills, not receptive skills. Right? What are receptive skills? Listening and speaking. We receive information. But how can we check whether the students have understood the received information? By writing and by speaking. Listen and write. Listen and say. Read and write. Read and say. Right? So we can check whether the students have understood reading and listening by giving them test, and the production is based on writing or speaking. That's why the teacher tests are of two categories, written tests and oral tests. Now there's a chart. Don't worry about this. It's very simple, right? Written tests are fourfold. Objective tests, semi-objective tests, essay tests and open book tests. Then the revision goes on. On the other side, oral tests, picture-based, language tests, subject tests. So for the time being, we'll just leave it like this. We'll go to the other section. What we have to remember here, teacher tests are of two types, written and oral. Now we'll take the first one, right, under written tests. Objective tests. Objective tests. Now what are these objective tests? Tests with definite answers and definite number of marks allocated are called objective tests. You will have to by heart or remember these definitions, right? These are first paper questions. What are objective tests? They have definite answers. Now, to remember this, you can think of an example. One objective type test is MCQs, right? We'll see test with definite answers. We'll take one MCQ. What is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Kalu, Walave, Mahavali, Kalani. So we have only one correct answer. That's why test with definite answer. One correct answer. And definite number of marks allocated. So if we give for 1 mark for that, that's 1. We can't give half a mark for that. Right? So, half a mark. You have to continue like that. Now, if we take essay type test, the marks vary. But here, objective type test, the marks are definite, fixed. Definite number of marks allocated are called objective tests. One correct answer and the assigned marks to that answer doesn't change. Right? Remember that. Special features of objective type tests are answer is definite. Right? Definite means there's only one answer. Correct answer. The correct answer is predetermined by the setter. The setter knows the answer, what the answer will be. Now in an essay type test, we don't know what the answer will be. The students can write anything. But in objective type test, we know the answer, correct answer beforehand. Whoever does the marking, the allocation of marks doesn't change. Right? If I mark the papers MCQs or you mark the papers, Bimali marks the paper, the answers, the allocation of marks doesn't change. That's why definite number of marks are allocated. The marker need not necessarily be competent in the subject. The marker, it's better to have knowledge about the subject component. But now anybody can mark these MCQs and all. No, even grade 4 child, first question, third answer. Second question, first answer. Third question, something else. So anybody can mark the answers. The marker need not necessarily be competent, right? Need not necessarily be knowledgeable about the subject matter. Sometimes the student supplies the correct answer himself. In objective type tests, sometimes the student supplies. Number 6, sometimes the student selects. What do you mean by supplies the correct answer by himself? Example, one word answers. Say, what is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Blank. The student has to supply, write the answer there, Mahavali. Right? Then he will get 1 mark. That is supply type. Second one, sometimes the student selects the correct answer. Example, underlines the correct answer. What is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Mahavali, Kaluvalave, Kalani. Underline the correct answer. That is selection type. Right. So what are the special features? The answer is definite. The allocation of marks is definite. And there are, remember, the other features as well. Okay, these are objective type tests. One correct answer and the marks don't change. Now we'll go to the next page. There's a small note. Important factors to be considered when preparing questions. Right? When we prepare the questions, there are certain things that we'll have to pay attention to. Right? When preparing questions. Give me another name for questions. Items. Give me another name for a test. Instrument. Another name? Tools. right? Remember, we'll come to this section later. These important factors. We'll go to the next one. Now under written tests, we study objective tests. Objective tests are with one correct answer and definite number of allocated marks. Under objective type test, there are two. What are those? First one is supply type. Supply type means the student write the answer. Next to that, right, the student has to write the answer. Supply type. Next, the other type is selection type. Here the student has to select the correct answer. Now the supply type, here it says, questions can be set expecting the student either to supply the correct answer separately or by filling blanks in given statements. So supply, writing, the student has to write the answers in two ways. First one is the question type. Example, when did Portuguese invade Sri Lanka? That's the question and the blank is there. Right? What's the answer? In 1505. Second one is incomplete statement type. Incomplete statement. There's a statement but it's not completed. Portuguese invaded Sri Lanka in the year blank 1505. Now you will have to remember some questions, right? Examples for these. Supply type, under that question type. What is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Question mark, then blank. Or incomplete, how can you convert that one into an incomplete statement? The longest river in Sri Lanka is blank. Right? There's no question mark. It's a statement. Then the next one is the selection type. How many selection type things are there? Actually 5, right? Here it's 3. No, mainly 3. Then you can find some more also. First one, selection type. That means the answers are given. The student has to select the correct answer. Matching type. First one, matching type. Match the word with the meaning or whatever. Match the picture with the correct word. A florist, a baker. B. Treats patients, sells flowers. So the student will match a florist, sells flowers. Right? First one, matching type. Second one, two alternative type. Two alternative. Alternatives are, choices. There are only two choices. Binary questions. Binary answer type. Two, next to that two alternative, right? Binary. B-I-N-A-R-Y. Binary choice. Bicycle, 2. Right? Sri Lanka is an island. True or false? Yes or no? Right or wrong? Two choices are there. The student has to select the correct answer. That is two alternative type, binary choice. Third one, multiple choice items, MCQs. Multiple choice questions, right? Type. Multiple choice also, there are 5 categories, right? Different types. You can construct multiple choice questions in 5 ways. First one, question type. What does a reliable test measure? Right? Then the answers are there. Consistency, qualities, usefulness, practicability. This is another unit. You don't know the answer for this one. Actually, the answer is the first one, right? So the question type, question is given and the choices are given. Among the choices, there's one key, that means one correct answer. Second multiple choice type is, multiple means more than 2, right? Here, incomplete statement type. There are blank main domains in Bloom's taxonomy. 6, right? So incomplete statement, this one is not a question, it's a statement, but the statement is not completed. There's a blank. Then the next one is combined responses type. Combined responses. Responses are the answers, choices. The following are several instances of measurement. A. Meet a ruler to measure the length of a classroom. B. An IQ test to measure the intelligence of students. C. A thermometer to measure the temperature of a liquid. Which of the following show the indirect measurements? Can you remember those direct measurements, indirect measurements? Direct measurements. We measure the physical things, right? Directly we can measure the length, height, weight, those things. Indirect measurements, intelligence, knowledge. Right, anyway, now what are the combined responses? The responses are combined. 1, A and B, 2, B and C. Likewise, the combinations are there. This is one type of this what is this? Multiple choice question. Right, under multiple choice so far we learned question type, incomplete statement type, combined response type. Next, page 3, negative type, right? Fourth type of multiple choice. Negative. Select the irrelevant statement regarding essay type tests. Select the irrelevant, the statement that is not suitable. 1. Develops creative writing. 2. Exists subjectivity. 3. Develops high intelligence. 4. Any examiner could mark the answers. Right? So, negative type means here you can see in the stem or the question it says select the irrelevant statement or select the incorrect statement. Likewise, there's a negative type multiple choice question. Number 5, best answer type. Example, underline the most appropriate answer. So the question is there, question is given, answers are given, all the answers are correct, but you will have to underline the most appropriate answer. That's the special feature there, right? All the answers are correct, but you will have to select the most suitable answer. So those are the 5 types of multiple choice questions. All right. Now we'll go to that chart. Now you can understand this, right? So the teacher tests. What are teacher tests? Progress test. The teacher himself can give the test anytime, right? To check the student's progress, development. So there are 2 types. I'm not using a pointer because this is not a video. Under teacher tests, there are 2 categories, written tests, oral tests. Under written tests, objective tests, semi-objective, essay, open book. Right? Now we have taken only one, the first one, objective tests. Under objective test, there are 2 types, supply type and selection type. Supply type means the student has to write the answer. Under supply type, there are 2 types of questions. The question type, what is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Then the child has to write, supply the answer. Then the other type is incomplete statement type. The longest river in Sri Lanka is, then the blank, right? Now under selection type, there are 3 main categories. See the arrow, that the branch, matching type, 2 alternative type, multiple choice, right? So the matching type is there, you know, the florist and all. 2 alternative means binary, true or false. Then multiple choice questions. Under multiple choice, there are 5 categories. Question type. Once again, what is the longest river in choice? There are 4 choices. Incomplete statement. Then choices are there. Combined responses. Then choices. Negative type and the best answer type. So that's the division. I told you this is not that difficult. So that chart, that part is there. Finished. Now we have to go to the next one. Under written test, we completed the objective test. Under written test, the second one is semi-objective tests. Now we'll go to the next part. This is what we skipped earlier in the page 2. Important factors to be considered when preparing questions items, right? Especially MCQs. Because you'll have to construct MCQs. Remember, at the exam they will ask you to construct questions, right? Supply type, then selection type. They'll ask you the definitions. Right. Now, what are the important things that you'll have to pay attention to? 1. Should provide clear instructions, right? When you construct a question means an item, you will have to give clear instructions, right? And they should be very specific. You don't have to write, you can't write essays there. Read the given text paragraph and mark the given statement, whether the statements are true or false. Likewise, here underline or circle or write TOF or right or wrong. Likewise, like that you can give clear instructions. You have to. Number 2, question should not be too long. Right, MCQs, the question should not be too long. Once again, no essays there. You have to be very specific. Sometimes you take 2 or 3 lines for the question and then the choices are there. No, that's not correct. Number 3, the stem of the question should match the choices, right? If I have the board, I would have right. The stem means the question part. What is the longest river in Sri Lanka? That's the stem. Or we can take the longest river in Sri Lanka is, that's the stem of the question. Then you find Kalu, Mahavali, Valave, Kalani. Those are the choices, right? So here it says the stem of the question should match the choices in length. If the stem is if the stem takes 1 line, the choices also should take 1 line, 1 row, right? Then number 4, stem of items, right? Questions, the stem of the question. And choices should not be included in 2 pages, right? At the bottom of the page, the stem is there. What's the longest river in Sri Lanka? Then in the page 2, Kaluvelave Mahavali. No, it's not correct. The stem and the choice should be in the same page. This is one of your assignments, right? You will have to construct a test paper. So when you are constructing the items, questions, you will have to pay attention to these. Pictures, diagrams and figures, etc. should be clear. Sometimes you can find, what you do is when you are asked to construct papers in your schools, you include colored pictures, right? You download and include, say, picture description, colored pictures. But when you get the copies, they come in black and white. Can't see the picture, the drawing clearly, right? You will have to think about those things. So the pictures, diagrams, figures and everything, they should be very clear. Now take your reading and writing paper, your final paper. You can see what I am referring to. Number 6, should follow an accepted pattern when numbering the questions, right? For the main question, this type of digits. For the sub questions, this type, Roman or whatever, with that bracket like that. So there should be an accepted pattern, uniformity. The stem should clearly formulate the problem. That means in the stem, you have to give the meaning of the question including the stem. The stem should clearly formulate the problem. Avoid repetition of words in the choices. Right, now there are choices now. So you can't have repetition. That's not number 8, right? That's an example. Cut it off. Example. The shape that is formed by 4 equal lines. That is the stem, right? How many choices are there here? 3 choices. How are they given? It is a rectangle, it is a square, it is a pyramid. So you can see the repetition. It is a, it is a, it is a. So how can you correct the question? The shape that is formed by the 4 equal lines or is the shape that is formed by 4 equal lines is a, then choice 1, rectangle, square, pyramid. Likewise. So in the choices you can't have repetition. Number, actually it is 8 now, but anyway. Avoid including unnecessary clues that help elimination of options. Easy. Now, sometimes you make questions, right? You construct questions that in the choices, some unsuitable answers are there. So there's no, that is not correct. Example. What is the same example? What is the longest river in Sri Lanka? Kalu, Pidrutalagala, Mahaveli, Valave. That Pidrutalagala is odd, very odd, right? So this avoid including unnecessary clues. So that's a mountain, so it is not there in there. So you have to that help. Elimination means get rid of, putting out of options. So easily the child can not delete, put out that one, no, Pidrutalagalu. So don't have those things, right? Next one, use the negative in the stem as much as possible. Negative type, so negative in the, if there's the negative term, you have to include that in the stem. Example, which of these statements is not true about MCQs? So the negative part is included in the stem, not in like that. The stem should contain the verb of the item, right? The longest river is. What's the verb there? Is. So it is in the stem. The stem should contain the verb of the item. Item means the question. The option should include only one clear answer. Perfect reliability. That means the options are the choices, right? Choices should have only one correct clear answer. That's why they are objective type questions. You can't have two correct answers there. That's what when you construct the questions, you will have to think about all these things. Right? There should be only one correct answer. You have to construct the questions to get that one in that manner. The option should be as short as possible, right? Even the options, if there are 4 options, not lengthy ones, short options, choices. Number 14, avoid complex terms, symbols and shortened forms in order to make the options difficult. Sometimes you want to make them challenging, so you include complex choices, symbols like that. No, you are not supposed to do like that. The distractors. Now in the choices, right, options or choices, say Kalu, Valave, Mahaveli, Kalani. Those are the options or choices. There's one correct answer. What is that? Mahaveli. The longest river is Mahaveli. We call that correct answer as the key. K-E-Y, key. And then there are other 3 options, no? Kalu, Valave, Kalani. Those are called distractors, right? There are 4 choices or 4 options. 1 is the key. 3 are distractors, right? Distracting from getting the answer correct. should be plausible and logical as possible, right? There should be a challenge, right? Then the students can think, not like Kalani Piduru Dalagala Mahavali like that. More or less the same. Then the child will think and find the correct answer. Avoid using phrase all of these as an option. Sometimes you say Kalu Alave Mahavali, all of these. Use the option none of the above only when the key can be classified right or wrong. So likewise, there are certain things that you have to remember. These are important when you are constructing the objective type questions, especially multiple choice, binary statement, incomplete statements, all these you have to go through these. At least remember 5 important things, because they might ask, I mean in past papers you can see the questions like that. All right. Now we are coming to the next one, semi-objective tests. Objective tests, remember, there's only one correct answer and definite allocation of marks. Semi-objective. This type is similar to objective type, except that the marker should be competent enough in the subject, as there may arise instances where certain decisions have to be taken with regard to the answers given. Example of this semi-objective type, right? Naming the parts of a given object. We'll say a tree, right? So there are correct answers, no? The trunk, the bark, the leaves, the fruits, right? So they are objective also, but the child can write something else also, right? Buds or young leaves, right? So that the marker should be competent enough to decide whether the answer is correct or not. There is one possible answer, but there can be some answers similar to that possible answers. That's why semi-objective type, right? Unlike this objective type where the marker does not have not necessarily be competent enough, but here the marker has to be competent enough, right? Semi-objective type. Name in the digestive system, that is also a semi-objective type test. So if the child has written something else for that but a similar name, then the marker should know, right? These are semi-objective tests. Then the next type is essay tests. Characteristics. These are common questions in your paper, essay type tests, objective type tests. Characteristics of essay tests. Essay is written by the person being tested, of course, unless he copies. Essay is written by the candidate, right? Answer may be in one or more sentences. So even a single sentence that becomes that belongs to the essay type questions, right? The other one is objective type, whereas one correct, most of the time one correct answer is there. In essay type, even a single sentence is essay type, not the pages of sentences, not only. Answer may be in one or more sentences. Correct answer may not be definite, can have more than one acceptable answer, right? These are essay tests. Short answer questions, all these essays. Then open essays are there. First one. 3 types of essay tests: open, structured, guided essays. Now we'll say open essay. Person being tested under this category is allowed to answer the question freely, right? Write about Sri Lanka. Always Sri Lanka, no, it doesn't matter. Write about Sri Lanka. So the candidate or the testee can, the testee, right? T-E-S-T-E-E. Testee, who sits for the test, right? The testee or the candidate will write the answer. The person being tested under this category have to answer the right question freely. Second one, structured essays. First one, open essay, structured essay. The structure of the question is set according to the expected answer. In other words, the answer is structured within the question itself. Structured type. I think you have answered this, right? In your reading and writing paper, there's a graph, right? Then they ask you to analyze. You can't write anything that you want. Because according to the, based on the graph, you'll have to give the information, right? You can use any style, but based on the graph, what's given. Example, here a graph, then the questions, a passage, then the questions. Based on the passage, you will have to write the answers freely, right? But it's limited, structured, not like open essays. Second one is structured essays. Third one, guided essays. In this case, it is important that the teacher should guide the students in writing the essay. In your reading and writing paper, you will get guided essays. Example, guidelines are given, right? Write about Sri Lanka under the following subtopics: the geography, the culture, then the weather conditions. Likewise, they will give you the guidelines, guided essays, right? Now here, sometimes the guidance can be given like this, by giving the start. That Saturday was very dark. It was very gloomy, ... By giving the start. By giving guidelines, as I said, guidelines. Then by giving summarized statements so that the students can build up the essay based on them. They have to expand the summarized sentences. So those are guided essays. Now we discussed the essay tests. Essay test can be, what are essay tests? The essay is written by the person being tested. The answer can be one sentence or more than one, right? There can be more than one possible answer, correct answer. So there are three types of essay test: open, structured and guided. These types of essays are useful in judging the creative ability of, we'll be discussing all the advantages. This section is very important. Most of the time you get questions on these, right? What are the advantages? Useful judging the creative ability of students, not like objective type tests. Here, using essay type tests, you can judge the students' creativity. Identify the abilities and inabilities of students, grammar, vocabulary and all. Okay, this is all essay type tests. Next one, advantages of essay type questions. What are the advantages of essay type questions? Person being tested is free to express his own views, not restricted, right? Freely he can give answers. Essay tests can be used as a qualifying tests for higher studies. They can ask you to write an article, and based on the information you have given there, they will select for higher studies, right? A higher level of cognitive abilities can be measured, right? Cognitive abilities, cognition, that's what we are going to do next. Knowledge, right? The base is the knowledge. Then whatever the knowledge you get, subject matter, you should be able to understand it. Comprehension. Once you have understood, you should be able to use that knowledge, right? What you have understood, that is application. Then you should be able to analyze it, the knowledge, right? This is this is that. Likewise, you should be able to analyze the content. So analysis. Then synthesizing, you should be able to summarize. These things belong to this category. These things belong to this category. Likewise, summarization. For that to summarize, you should have a proper knowledge, right? And then summarization. Then the last one is creativity, or we can say the evaluation, comparison, right? You should be able to compare. To compare something, you should have sufficient knowledge, right? That's the highest level, creativity and all. So a higher level of cognitive abilities can be measured: analytic ability, synthesizing abilities, creativity, higher order cognitive abilities. And the next, number 4, the skills of organizations. In essay writing, organization, the introductory paragraph, then the clues. Likewise, even within the paragraph, proper organization should be there. Presentation skills, language command, grammar and vocabulary, proper words, time management, creativity, argumentative thinking, logical thinking can be measured. When you give the again a test, essay type test, you can measure all these, not like objective tests. You have to think like objective means, just think, imagine MCQs, essay type test, essays. Motivate students to find more information about the subject, deep study. Now sometimes the lecturers give you assignments, for psychology. So if you want more marks, you can do more reference, right, and gather information and give a complete answer. Limits copying and malpractices. Yeah, if you ask them to write an essay, they don't copy. Limits copying, right? And malpractices, inappropriate, unacceptable practices. Now in objective, what's, you raise one finger and nod your head, right? Now number 2, number 1, choices, the key one. No, you can't do that. Less costly, right? In essay type questions, now we'll say if you give 5 questions, only one A4 sheet. But if you take the objective type first papers, 2 or 3 pages, less costly. So those are some of the advantages of essay type questions. Next one, disadvantage, limitations of essay type questions. Usually I do this as group work, but I'll just read out. Marking is subjective, right? Subjective means, now you write an essay. I will mark your essay and I can give some marks. Another lecturer will mark your essay and give another value, right? Mark. So it can be subjective. It varies from examiner to examiner. It shouldn't be, but sometimes it's like that. There are ways to discourage those things, right, by giving a proper marking scheme. The next one, a qualified person is necessary for marking. Unlike the objective type questions, here a qualified person, who is competent enough, knowledgeable about this subject matter, should be the marker. Marking is time consuming. Yeah, always compare with the objective type, right? MCQs and all. Marking is time consuming, takes time. Difficulty in measuring the true abilities by the answers written in a very limited period of time. That's true, no? Now, if we take your syllabus, measurement, you study measurement, the theory part, yeah, for 2 years. But now here, 5 essay type questions within 2 hours. Actually, you will have to answer only 2 essay type questions. In your paper, you have only 2 essay type questions, but there are so many units are there. Also, the problem of content validity from the whole syllabus includes only the inclusion of number of questions is less, right? So the content, the amount is also low. That is also one disadvantage. Page number 4, continuation. Number 5, a selection of questions tends to make students guess and study certain areas in the syllabus and neglect the rest. That's true. right? Some of you do this even in your exam. A selection of questions tend to make students guess and study. Some of you select, I'll select the reliability question. Then I'll select 5 domains or school-based assessment. And they study only those 2 or 3. They neglect the rest. And when you go there and sit for the exam, then you find no school-based, no domains. There are no questions. So you are in trouble. So don't do that. You'll have to study everything. That is one disadvantage in essay type questions. What is that? A selection of questions tend to make students guess and study certain areas in the syllabus but neglect the rest. Number 6, difficulty of setting the questions with the same standard. Yeah, if you construct 5 questions, they should be of equal difficulty, or they should be of the same standard, right? One question easy, one question difficult. No, it's unfair. Some questions can be more difficult, time consuming, therefore unfair to the students, those who select them. Then the halo effect. Yeah, examiner's judgment in evaluating the answer may be influenced by other factors like handwriting, color of the ink, good language, etc. That's true. Once I marked your, not yours, proficiency test papers, right? Selection test. Yeah, sometimes we see very nice handwriting, very neat work, and 2 or 3 pages of the essay. But when we go through the essay, we can see the same thing is being repeated. Halo effect. Halo effect means the handwriting is nice, neatness is there, length is fine, everything is fine, but the content is, there's not enough content. The outer world is nice. Halo effect, shiny, right? So sometimes we find that weakness in essay type things. Number 8, examiner reliability becomes a question. Examiner reliability. Reliability means what? Consistency, stability. I mark and give 1 mark. Another person will mark and give another mark. 2 different marks, right? With variation, higher variation. So examiner reliability. Stability gets low, very low. It shouldn't be like that, right? Remember correlation? There's a perfect correlation, or there's a very strong positive correlation between examiner 1 and 2. That means if one examiner gives marks, the other also gives more marks. There's a connection, right? It's relationship, positive, strong. So those are the disadvantages of essay type questions. You study this very carefully and you have to remember this. You should be able to compare objective type questions and essay type questions, advantages and disadvantages. When you go through the past papers, you can see a lot of questions are based on this section. The next section, same slide, right? Page 4. Measures to improve essay type questions. And the second topic is on measures to improve essay type questions when marking the paper. First, when setting the paper. Second one is when marking the paper. So what are the measures that we can take to improve the essay type questions? First one, the question should be represent the relevant subject matter. Right? The question should be based on the subject content. If the syllabus is about the 5 domains, the question should be based on that. The question should be framed to assess the students' analyzing, synthesizing and evaluating abilities as well. Not only the knowledge and comprehension. I told you in the cognitive domain there are 6 steps. Knowledge, the information is there. Then you should be able to understand what is there, the information, and application. Should be able to use your knowledge. Then analyzing, synthesizing, evaluation. So when we construct the essay type question, we should be able to test the students these abilities, right? Analyzing abilities, synthesizing abilities, judgments, compare and contrast. Likewise, you'll have to give questions, not only write about Sri Lanka. The questions should be targeted directly at the objectives that are expected to be measured. Right? You have objectives, and they should we should be able to achieve our objectives. Right, as I told you earlier, if it is 5 domains, the students should be able to learn the steps in the 5 domains. That's our objective. Now we have to construct questions to check whether they know the steps in the 5 domains, right? Targeted directly at the objective that are expected to be measured. Number 4. Questions should be clearly and definitely based on objective expected from the students. The same. 5. Limit the number of choices. Therefore, can assess all the students with the definite scope. Yeah. Limit the number of choices. You can't give, you have to, out of 8 questions, write only 3. No. So, you'll have to shorten that. Limit the number of out of 5, 3. Likewise. Can assess all the students with the definite scope. It is more advantageous to increase the number of structured questions rather than limiting the number of essay questions. Structured questions, remember, they give you a graph and you have to analyze based on the information given. Right? So, it is structured. It is more advantageous to increase the number of structured questions rather than limiting the number of essay questions. So, what are we doing now? We are studying the techniques that we can improve the essay type questions when setting the paper. When you set the paper, now if you have to use essay type questions. So how can you improve them when you set the paper? First one is the question should be relevant to the subject matter. They should meet the objectives, and they should be able, we should construct them in order to check the students' analytic abilities, synthesizing, evaluating, those things, higher order cognitive abilities. And we have to limit the number of choices. We can't give choices. So when we set the paper, we have to pay attention to these factors. Then we can improve the essay type questions. Otherwise, the examiner reliability becomes low. Then when measures to improve essay type questions when marking the paper, when we mark the essay type answers. One is, this is very important, put a star mark, right? This part comes in the another section also. The standard of marking can be decided based on the expectation of the state. A test of a national level or school level competition, likewise or classroom test, the standard of marking can be decided whether it should be strict marking in selection tests, right? If we give essays, yeah. When we used to mark the proficiency test papers, they are our chief marker examiners. First, we have to go to the essay. From the essay, we can judge the students' abilities, language competency, right? So, likewise, we have to decide. Number 2, application of analytic marking rather than impression marking, right? What do you mean by analytic marking and impression marking? Now, analytic marking means, write down somewhere. Now, say, you give marks to each point. For the first part, 1 mark. Second part, 1.5. Third part, 2 marks. The fourth part, 1 mark. Likewise, for each part you give marks and you get the total. Right? That is analytic marking. Division is there. Then impression marking means impression as a whole. Say above 75. 75 or above, 75, 76, 76, 80s, 90s, all A, grade A. Then between 64 and, no, 65 and 74, B. That is impression. the child who gets 65 or the child who gets 74, they both get B grade, impression as a collection. Analytic means separately. For each section you get a mark. So application of analytic marking rather than impression marking based on the situation. So that is also, that means rather than giving grades, not grades, impression marking, we have to analyze each part and give marks. Provision of detailed marking scheme. That's very important, right? Not just a simple marking scheme, a detailed marking scheme, whether to deduct marks for spelling mistakes or how to give marks for this one, half a mark, likewise. A detailed marking scheme should be given. Note. For more information, read the note of Unit 5, Reliability. How to minimize subjectivity. Subjectivity means the lack of reliability between the examiners, right? So that part is important when setting the paper, when marking the paper. All right, everything is important, no? Next one, we'll go to a comparison. Some characteristics of objective type and essay type questions. I told you when you see this objective type, think about MCQs. Essay type, just an essay, right? So what are the characteristics? Objective type. Examiner reliability is high, right? The marks, they don't vary from one examiner to another because there's a definite mark. What's the longest river? Mahavali. So if I mark or somebody else marks, the answer is correct and marks are definite. Essay type questions, examiner reliability is low, that the marks can be varied. Can cover a vast area of the subject matter. We can construct MCQs taking 2 or 3 lessons. Then construct 40 questions. Can cover a vast area of the subject matter. Limited number of questions. Right? If we take one area, only limited. We can't have 10 or 20 questions, no essay type questions. Limited number of area. So, questions. Number 3, no selection of questions. Can test the overall achievement. Now there are no choices no in MCQs. They have to answer all the questions, right? No choices, so no selection. So the can check the overall achievement. Selection of questions exists. Testing of overall achievement is low. So as I told you earlier, some students tend to study only a few topics. So we can't check the overall achievement, knowledge. We don't know the student's knowledge in those areas because there are choices. In MCQs, we don't have choices. Choices means we have to answer all the objective type questions. Number 4, possibility of expressing ideas is low. In objective type questions, MCQs or fill in the blanks or matching type, can we express our ideas? No. In essay type questions, can express our ideas creatively, right? Using higher order cognitive abilities, analysis, synthesis, logical argumentation. Next one, mistakes by the setter is high. There can be mistakes, right? Example, setting options in the MCQs, right? Options, choices. So the setter can make mistakes. That's one disadvantage. And then mistakes by the setter is low because we have to construct 1 or 2 questions. Number 6, by guessing the answer somehow can score marks even without the knowledge. That's one disadvantage, right? Tactic 2, by guessing we can answer. To answer, at least some degree of knowledge of the subject matter is required. When answering the essay type questions, we have to know the subject content. Then only we can answer. We can't guess and write. Number 7, students tend to study superficially. Essay type, a deep study of the subject matter is involved, right? To get more information, a deep study. So that's the comparison. Like as I told you earlier, think about an example for each, and then you can think and write comparisons, this and that, MCQs and essay types like that. Next subtopic, open book tests. Last part in page 4, open book test. What are these open book tests? That's also a teach test, right? Classroom test, a progress test. Number 1, enable the students to express their cognitive abilities freely without studying the facts by heart. Right, open book test. Here the students are allowed to take the books, their notebooks, textbooks, everything, right? And the question paper is given, so they can go through the notes and write the answers. So that's why it says enables the students to express their cognitive abilities freely without studying the facts by heart. They don't have to by heart the things because they are allowed to use their books. Enable the students to exhibit their talents in free writing with the use of reference work. Right? If they are allowed to take the books, then they can refer many books and can take the short notes, everything. Motivate students to read more. To gather more information, you have to read more. Facilitate language tests. Right? Then they with the information, they can express their ideas logically and all. Facilitate as teaching evaluating technique. Right? This is also not only evaluative technique, as a teaching technique also we can use open book tests. Now, example, you can conduct this open book test for grade 6 students. Example, the question is this. Read page numbers 36 and 37 in grade 6 history book and answer the following questions. So they can take the textbook, right? History, grade 6. They have to read only page 36 and 37. First question. Explain the reasons why the King Mahasen is named as God of Mineri. So they have to read these 2 pages and answer the question why King Mahasen is named as God of Mineri. Number 2, describe the services rendered by him to the irrigation system of our country. So the students have to go through those 2 pages and write the answers. What are the services rendered by him to the irrigation system of the country. So they have to go through the answer. That is one example of open book test. But there's now for you also it's good. But the thing is, you will have to go through before this test. You will have to go through the books very carefully, and you should be able to remember where this part is, where the other informations are there. Otherwise, you will at the test you will be going through the pages again and again finding the information. Now you'll have to be very well prepared, right, for this open book test. All right. Now, where are we going? We'll go through this chart. Here we are discussing the teach test, written test and oral test. Under written test, we have discussed objective test, semi-objective, essay test. Now we discussed open book tests, right? So we have completed all the written tests. Now we are going to oral tests. There are 3 types: picture based, language tests and subject tests. Okay. Oral test, 2 productive skills, writing and speaking. Oral tests. Page 5. Provide an opportunity to those students who are poor in expressing their views in writing. Yeah, that's true. No, some students can't write properly, but they can understand what we teach. When we ask from them, they can answer orally. But when they start writing, they can't form the sentences. So these oral tests are good in this way. What's that? Provide an opportunity to those students who are poor in expressing their views in writing. Second one, facilitate identification of students with speech deficiencies. When we get them to speak, we can identify certain deficiencies. Some students stammer, some can't pronounce certain sounds properly. So we can identify speech deficiencies as well. Limit scoring of marks by cheating the examiners. Right? That's true. Now, if we ask the answers from the students, say now I'll get one of you, right? I'll ask Amali. Now tell me, what are the objective type tests? What are the subjective essay type tests? What are the differences between these two? So can you copy? No, you have to study and answer these questions. So you can't uh, cheat, right? The examiners. In oral test, you can't cheat. In written tests, sometimes you can. Facilitate assessment of speech and communicative skills, right? Assessment of speech. We can assess the student's speaking skill. Then what are the types of oral tests? Oral test based on picture description. Say grade 5 students, we can show them a picture, a Sunday fair. They can speak about the scene. There are many vegetable sellers. There is a boy. There is a bullock cart. Likewise, they will say in simple sentence. Picture description. We can test knowledge, language skills, etc. All. Oral test based on language skills. Right? Assessment of vocabulary, clarity, fluency, accuracy. Fluency, speed, accuracy, the correctness. All these things we can test when we give them a speech like that. Now, what are the situations? Test situations. Rendering a speech on a given topic. We can give them a topic and they'll have to speak about it. Then we can check their vocabulary, use of vocabulary, clarity of expressing their ideas, fluency of the language, accuracy, all these things, right? The tone, intonation, pronunciation, communicative skills. Impromptu, that means not pre-prepared. On the spot, they'll have to say. Debates, those are the oral tests. Conducting discussions, singing, recitations, interviews, panel discussions. All these are oral tests based on language skills. In language skills, we can check their knowledge in vocabulary, grammar, everything. This part is important for you in your ELT subject also. Number 3, oral test based on knowledge of the subject matter. Not only the language skills, we can check their subject matter also. As I say, we can ask the students to express their knowledge or ideas based on the subject content. The questions may be based according to the fields in Bloom's taxonomy, right? So we can assess their knowledge about the comprehension, application, analytic techniques, everything. We'll say knowledge. Name 4 provinces in Sri Lanka. We can check the students' knowledge by that question. Name 4 provinces. Whether they have understood the content. Example, explain the term environmental pollution in your own words. If they have understood that term, they should be able to explain it in words, right? Speak. So we can test their knowledge and comprehension. So not only language skills, we can check the knowledge also, subject matter also. Now the next part is Next one, objective English language tests. Once again, ELT, right? Objective English language test. You have to construct English paper, subject papers, right? Grade for the primary section, secondary section. You have to design the papers. So you must know what type of questions that you can include in these papers, right? Teacher test papers, progress test. What are the types of questions that you can see in the papers? Test papers, grade 5, grade 6, 7. Fill in the blanks. Then matching type. Then drawing. Then writing answers. All these, right? Now we'll just go through. You can include MCQs. What are the skills that you can measure by giving MCQs? Reading skills, right? Where did Ravi go on Monday? So they have to read the passage and select the answer. It's comprehension, right? Reading, writing, listening, speaking, vocabulary, grammar, spelling. For all these, you can use MCQs, right? Even spellings, you can use MCQs to check their spellings, ability. Grammar, MCQs. Ravi within blank to Colombo yesterday. Will go, goes, went, has gone. What's the answer? Went, because yesterday that part is there, so you can check grammar MCQs. Then close tests. Then you can find C tests. Right now, look at the sentences given down there. Close test, or up here also. Close means deleting some words. These are fill in the blanks, right? Now close test, fill in the blanks one. Now I have given one example. Say, Ravi went to Colombo with his father yesterday. Always one or two sentences you should give them, right? Then they can get the general idea of the paragraph. Then he blank the zoo in Dehiwala. Either you can give them the answers or they have to write. He visited the zoo in Dehiwala. The giraffes are very blank and the elephants are very blank. The giraffes are very tall and the elephants are very large, big. So they can use, if you have taught them the adjectives, you can make use of these close tests, fill in the blank tests. They can use the adjectives or any, right? So you can close test overall language ability. Anything. That means you can check grammar, fill in the blanks, adjectives, nouns, then spellings also. C test, another close test is there, close elide. So close elide tests. Now one example, same example. Ravi went to Colombo with his father yesterday, right? He visited the zoo, blank, Dehiwala. The giraffes are blank, tall, and the elephants, blank, well. Here close elide means you delete the every nth word. In this case, I have deleted the fifth word, every fifth word. He visited, say one, he, that's one, visited two. 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth one is zoo. I deleted the fifth one, blank, Dehiwala. Then the giraffes are blank. That's the fifth one. So you delete every fifth word, or nth means any fifth word, seventh word, likewise, right? So every fifth word you delete. That is close elide, fill in the blanks. That's a pattern. Next one, C tests. C tests mean what? Deleting a part of a word. So it's kind of semi-structured, no? I mean, because the part, if one part is there, then you'll have to fill. Ravi went to Colombo with his father yesterday. He visited the zoo in Dehiwala. The giraffes are now they can't write very beautiful because TA is there. So they have to write tall. And the elephants are very large. They can't write big. So little bit restricted. Right? Close elite. No, C tests. Deleting a part of a word. These tests you can give to your students when you make your teacher tests, right? Classroom matching. Then we are coming to the next one, C test, number 4 in the table. Jumbled sentences, right? You can take a story and you can jumble them. They have to reordering the sentences, right? Jumbled sentences. What can you check? Students' reading ability, right? Cohesion, connectivity, first, second, finally, then, likewise, and coherence. That means the connection, unity, semantic markers, right? So they will get the gist, they will get the idea of the whole thing, and then they organize these things logically. Number 5, matching sentence parts, matching words with pictures, matching, right? So you can do reading, you can test their reading ability. To test their reading skill, you can make matching sentences. Grammar also matching. Vocabulary matching. The florist sells flowers. Vocabulary. Another type is transformation of sentences. Transformation of sentences, paragraphs. Now you read a text, a paragraph, and then you have to complete a flow chart. That is, you are checking the students' comprehension. They read the text and they will complete a flow chart. They read the text, they will complete or categorize, complete a table. Likewise, you can give transformation activities also. Transfer of information. When you do a listening lesson, now in the teaching practice, listening lesson, during the practice stage, you get them to practice how to listen and understand and inform. In the production stage, you can give another listening activity with those 3 steps, or you can give a transfer of information, because in the practice stage they have understood the text while they were listening. Now they can make use of the knowledge and draw a picture or something else based on the knowledge they have got in the practice. So transfer of information. Here that one, information transfer. Read the passage and fill in the blanks chart. Read the passage and answer the given questions. That's also transfer of information. So you can include these type of questions in your test papers. MCQs, fill in the blanks. What type of fill in the blanks? Just in general, or deleting every nth word, or deleting a part of the word, jumble sentences, matching, drawing, categorizing, all these. Categorizing also transfer of information. You can include these. That's the language test, right? Objective English language test. These are objective ones, not essay type. Objective English language tests.